Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. Hope you're all okay. It's nearly Halloween. Very exciting. Don't know if you still I assume you celebrate it as much over in America. It's quite popular here now within the UK. Got my pumpkins for the kids to carve, and yeah, they've got their costumes. My daughter is skeleton with a scythe, and my son, it's one of those where it looks like a zombie's carrying him, and it's got the fan. I mean, I had like a black bag with a belt, and one of those. Do you remember those plastic masks that make you sweat really bad? Don't really fit your face at all. Might do with that. It was fine, but yeah, it has got a lot more popular here. So very exciting. But the reason I'm so excited about it is because it brings us closer to Christmas. I do get very excited at Christmas. I love this time of year. I know it's unusual because when the dark nights come in, some people are like, ugh. But it's my favourite time of year. It genuinely is. I love Christmas. I love seeing the lights go up. And yes, I am one of them people that put the lights up in November. That's me. I do get mocked. I am the first person on our road that does it. But, well, actually, my neighbour, we agree that we put them up at the same time. So, but because we know it's so early, so it's better in numbers, I suppose. But, yeah, so very excited about this time of year. The story I'm going to do for you, it's called The Babes in the Wood Story. Now, it is about two little girls. It is very similar to the Soho murders, you know, Jessica Chapman and Holly Wells, in the sense that they were best friends, very young girls. I said it in my last story, I'm not veering off this way. It's not going to be a true crime channel dedicated solely to child murders, as I explained the last time. But as I have said a few times, if a story piques my interest and I feel like I want to share it with you, I will go away, I will research it. It does take a bit of time. And it's not specific to anything. It's just what I think, oh my God, you know, and this is one of those, because although it happened in 1986, there was obviously with DNA evidence, DNA technology, more advanced and everything else. Things that happened 80s, 90s now get re-looked into if a case isn't solved. So those really interest me. You know, when you feel like someone feels like they've got away with something and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you didn't. You didn't. You might have thought you did, but you didn't. And this is one of those stories. And I've seen it on a show called Faking It Tears of a Crime, the update. And it's on Quest on Sky. It does two cases within a show, within an episode. It's a really interesting show. Not sure if you get it over in America. I'm sure you would in other countries, but obviously I didn't just get everything from there, but that's where I initially seen the update. So it's the story of two little girls called Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway. And again, the reason why it struck a chord with me is they would have been the same age as me. No, these two girls, best friends, and they were from Brighton in England, and they lived on the Moseley Combe estate. Can't pronounce it. Moseley Combe estate. I have practiced it, believe it or not. Back in 1986. Really good friends, spent a lot of time together, really cute little girls if you see the pictures, just innocent and, you know, back then, kids did just used to go out to play. You know, it wasn't unheard of. So they came in from school, these two girls, obviously went home, got changed about 3:30, and came out to play. At about 3:30. Now, around the area at the same time, because it's quite it's an estate, so the shops are on the estate. There's a wild park local nature reserve, it's called, that's in the area as well. It looks quite close knitted, same as Soham. This is why the similarities are there. And also seen around where the girls were walking around and playing and stuff was a local lad called Russell Bishop. Now, Russell's 20. I didn't say these two little girls, I'm ever sorry, they're 9. They're 9 years old. And that's what I had said at the beginning of the story, actually, is that it wasn't unheard of for kids of this age to go out and play, come in for the dinner, or come in when it got dark. You know, I know things have changed now, but it wasn't unheard of then. So about 5:30, or about 5:30, Nicola's mum, and her name's Susan Fellows, she saw the girls, so they were seen at this time. Now, when they were due in, sort of as it was getting dark, there was no sign of the girls. Now, they had been seen at 6:30 by a police box. Is it police box? No, it said police box, so I'm thinking, was it a post box? I've never heard of a police box. Let me know if that was something. But they were seen about that time. And then when bedtime came, not bedtime, but night time came around, and, you know, they were due in, there was no sign of these girls. Now, this was on the 9th of October, 1986. Now, I know it would have got dark earlier then. Maybe they were just allowed out a bit later. Again, it wasn't unheard of. Maybe coming for dinner. I'm not too sure. But they didn't come home. So there is a phone call that you can listen to, and I think it's Susan again, phoning up about Nicola, but saying she was out with her friend Karen, and just basically saying, we've searched everywhere, it's not like them, they would have been in by now, they're 9 years old, you know, we need help, we're looking, we've asked all our friends. That's how we know they were seen at the latest at 6:30. So the police, the community, including Russell Bishop, okay, began a search for these two young girls, because it wasn't like them. There was no reason for them not to come home. They were happy little girls. There was just, it was just quite sinister from the beginning. Now, on the 10th of October 1986, so the following afternoon, the two girls were found at the Wild Park Local Nature Reserve. Like I say, you do see like footage of this. It's quite a big area, but where you see where they were found, it was kind of under like some bushes and trees, and it was just, they were found cuddled together, and that's where someone came up with the name the Babes in the Wood, and they had been raped and strangled to death. Oh, it's just, at this time when they were found, there was 2 volunteers that had found the girls. A police officer came over very quickly, obviously to try and corner and keep everyone away. Now, Russell Bishop, I keep hearing that name, don't you? Russell Bishop, he kind of came from nowhere, and he tried to get near the girls, and he was saying, I need to feel their pulse. Now, there was a police officer there, there was other volunteers there. By this point, there was other people turning up. And the police officer just found it very odd why this man would try and touch the girls. It was all very strange. Now, earlier on in the day, Russell had been seen with like a blue Pinto. I think it was a brand in the 80s. Pinto jumper. Sorry if it still is. But not very distinctive, just like a sweatshirt. He'd been seen with that earlier on. At this point, he didn't have that jumper on. It wasn't relevant at the time. Just pointing that out now. So it was quite suspicious. So, of course, straight away they start bringing people in for questioning. There was uproar within the community. It made national news. It was on Crime Watch, which is a show in the UK. It was just devastating to everyone, obviously including Nicola and Karen's parents. It was just these two little 9-year-old girls, and it I know it happens, but in the 80s, and I know it had happened long before then, but it was still very unusual. People did let their kids out to play. So when they brought Russell in for questioning, he'd gone back and forth on his story, where he'd been. He'd originally started to brag to people around the area that it had been him that had found the girls. And then when he was brought in for questioning, he contradicted himself and says, no, it was, and then he'd tell the truth that he'd just turned up afterwards. It was all very odd. During this time, just a bit further down by the railway, which was just a set aside from the wildlife park, this blue Pinto jumper is found, and people recognised it as being his, and his girlfriend Jennifer Johnson told the police, yes, that's his. She made a statement, said that's his jumper. So he's charged with the kidnapping, strangulation, rape and murder of these two just golden little girls. When it came to the trial, Jennifer Johnson, his girlfriend, retracted everything she said on the stand and says it wasn't his jumper. Not only was it not his jumper, the police must have forged her signature on the statement. And given that, and the fact they didn't have much evidence against Russell, he was acquitted. He was let go in December 1987. And you can imagine the family, everyone believes it's him. They just can't prove it. And the worst thing about it, he starts to blame Nicola's dad, Barry Fellows, for it, and says that he'd been abusing Nicola, not Karen. To be honest, not a lot's mentioned about Karen. But Nicola's dad is brought up quite a lot, and it said, he pointed the finger at him. The police were looking at him, and it had nothing to do with him, but, he threw his name out there. When you see him in an interview, and this is Russell Bishop, I'd like to say he's 20, but he looks like he's quite little, he's short, he's quite scrawny, he's quite mouse/rat-like, if I can say that. Just a real... Apparently he used to go around bragging about things that he didn't have, saying he did stuff he hadn't done. Just one of these, just not very likeable. Wanted to be liked, wanted to be popular, and believed he was, but no one really liked him. And in the interview, his mom, because when he was acquitted, I'm presuming it was one of his family members, came running out of the court going, not guilty, shouting it out, very proud of it. His mum in the television interviews laughing and joking. 2 little girls have been murdered. And I can understand if your son had been charged with this crime and then during the trial acquitted for it. I would imagine you would be very relieved, especially if you believe he didn't do it. But to be laughing and joking and, you know, on national TV, you know, finding it all very, I don't know, it just left a real bad taste in your mouth watching it. Not just him, because he was creepy anyway, but his mum. It was just a real, I don't know, I just don't think it was appropriate, even if you did believe his son didn't do it, to react that way. So now we come up to December 19... No, we don't. We come up to February 1990, sorry. And a little 7-year-old girl, now I haven't got a name, for obvious reasons, but a little 7-year-old girl who was out playing, minding her business, you know, just out playing before dinner. It's the afternoon. She gets dragged from the street, thrown in the back of a boot, and taken to, again, a wooded area. She was stripped. She was sexually assaulted, strangled, and then thrown. That's the bit that kind of got me. She was thrown into some bushes, left for dead, and believed to be dead. But this little girl, 7 years of age, she managed to crawl her way back through these bushes where she'd been thrown, but getting cut with all the overgrowth, gets to the main road and flags down help. And she survived, this little girl does. And what it is they bring in a lineup because she describes the description of the man who'd done it sounded very, very like someone the police knew very well, Russell Bishop. And she said he was fair-haired, he wasn't very tall, you know, a very good description of Russell. So when he was brought in, and she recognised, she gave a description of his car as well. It was a Ford Cortina, I think. And when he's brought in, trying to be a bit slow, because he hadn't tried to disguise himself because he thought she'd die. And when he was brought in, he went to the toilet and wet his hair to try and flatten it. Not only flatten it, but make it look darker. And you see, it's filmed, you see the lineup, and there's quite a few men. And the curtains are parted. Obviously, it's a two-way mirror. One-way mirror. They can't see her, she can see them. And you just hear this tiny little voice. Just, I think he was number 9 in the lineup. And it was him. It was Russell Bishop. And he was, arrested there and then. He was tried and convicted for the kidnapping, molestation, strangulation, and attempted murder of this little girl. Now, it kind of bothered me because the sentence he got was a minimum of 14 years. And I was a bit like, this was in December 1990. And I was just like, 14 years? But it was a recommended minimum. So it didn't mean he was going to get out then. So Russell Bishop is obviously off the streets at this point now. And we move up to 2005. Now, in 2005, a new legislation was brought in. I think I've talked about that on another story. To change the double jeopardy law. You know, where you wasn't able to be tried for the same crime twice. And apparently the bar's set very high for bringing a case again against someone who's been acquitted. But if you've got new evidence, and you can which obviously with time will happen, and there's enough new information, you can retry somebody. Now I think in 2010 they brought some information to the is it DA? What do we have here? Is it a district attorney here? It was brought to someone anyway, and they were like, no, it's not enough against Russell Bishop for Nicola and Karen's murders. So it was kind of, no, there's not enough, really. But on the 15th of October, no, in 2016, sorry, jumping ahead of myself. 2016, there were some flakes on Nicola's arms that were, when they put tape on things to kind of pick up evidence. And it had been very well preserved. And in 2015, they were able to, because they had Russell's DNA, they were able to say without a shadow of a doubt that the flakes that had been, skin flakes, on Nicola's arms belonged to Russell Bishop. Technology is amazing, isn't it? And because she'd been seen that entire day with long sleeves on, right up until obviously she was found with Karen, in the woods. There was no way it could have got on there unless he'd touched her. And also, do you remember the blue Pinto jumper that I mentioned? That his girlfriend, Jennifer Johnson, had swore blind him belonged to him. DNA evidence showed, I think it was Karen's DNA on it, or maybe both girls, but it proved without a shadow of a doubt that it had been Russell Bishop that had killed these two girls. So you do see, and it was on the 10th of the 5th, 2016, you see him get brought in for questioning. Now, don't forget, this man's still in prison. I haven't told you that. So we're coming up to 25 years, nearly 26 years now. He's been in prison. So the 14 years, it did make me feel, it did give me a little bit of hope that when these sentences are handed down, that even though it said that's a minimum, when it comes to the parole hearings and stuff, they don't always say, right, okay, you've done years, out you go. So I was quite happy about that. But he was due to be released. He only had a couple of months left after, the attempted murder of the 7-year-old little girl. So he's probably thinking, right, off I go. I think he's about 48 at this point. I can still go out and live my life. And he's brought in for questioning, and it's so interesting to watch the interrogation because he's just so annoyed he doesn't answer a question properly. It's all very evasive. He can't remember things in the order he had. And, if you're telling the truth, as in the words of Judge Judy, if you're telling the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. And, it was quite obvious. It was quite obvious he was lying. And then he went to a no comment interview. So on the 15th of October 2018, Russell Bishop's new trial begins for the strangulation, rape and murder of Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway. And along with the Pinto jumper, the flakes found on Nicola's arm. It was Nicola's arm, not Karen's, sorry. He was found guilty. And again, something else I found really interesting about this. Sorry. Readjust. I found really interesting about this was the witnesses for the defence that they'd had back in 1987. When it came to the 2018 trial, they were witnesses for the prosecution. And I just thought, wow. And he tried to defend himself by blaming Nicola's dad again, Barry Fellows. Again, he's trying to drag this man over the coals. He's lost his daughter. And he's just a horrible weasel of a man. He didn't grow any better in age. He's just awful. And he'd been doing this. He'd kind of been blaming him the entire time, and nothing changed when the new trial began. But he never got on the stand himself. Quite willing to put Nicola's dad through it, but he didn't get on the stand himself. So on the 10th of December 2018, after a 9-week trial, Russell Bishop was finally found guilty of the murders of Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadway. And he was sentenced to a minimum of 36 years in prison. Now, at this point, he's already 48. So, he'd be 84. He's not getting out. And when you just think of the two girls and the way they were found together, it doesn't say if they were, look, they wouldn't have been together. I don't know, but it was just the way it was described. Just their final moments just must have been. It doesn't. And then the little 7-year-old girl, what she went through, and in fact, he threw her in the bushes. Just a vile little man. So he'll never see the light of day again, which for the British justice system, I'm very proud. I'm very, very proud. I'm I was quite pleased too. I'm pleased to tell this story. That's the sentence he's got. Also, May 2021, do we remember Jennifer Johnson, the girlfriend who had originally said that, yeah, that's his Pinto jumper, and had she, followed through with that in the trial back in 1987, that poor little 7-year-old girl in 1990, there's a good chance that wouldn't have happened. A pretty good chance. And thanks to her, recanting it and lying on the stand, to everyone, and saying that the police have forged her signature, she really went for it. So she was found guilty of perjury and perverting the course of justice in May 2021, and where she'd lied under oath. And she was sentenced on the 19th of May 21 to 6 years. All them years later. And I kind of wanted to high-five the judge. I mean, 6 years when you think that what happened to the little girl might not have happened. It doesn't sound anything. I mean, she probably only do 3. But when you think that these sort of things would be dismissed, or, just got, what's that thing you get where you can just go, oh my goodness, I've lost it, where you can just go home, community service and things like that. I just thought it was really good that she's actually doing some prison time for what she did. It's just, why would you, if you believe that your partner, and you can see the jumper's his, if you really believe he didn't do it, you'd still tell the truth and be like, yeah, that's his jumper. I'm not too sure how it got there, but I can tell you now he's not capable of doing that. And let the court system, find out. Don't lie. And then you put another 7-year-old little girl in that horrible, horrible position. That horrible, weaselly little man. So if you want to have a look at him, you can see what he looks like now. You can see what he looks like then. And you'll say why I'm just... Blech. So that's the Babes in the Woods story. The show's Faking It Tears of a Crime. If you do want to have a look, like I say, it's a very quick condensed version of what happens, but it, you know, it tells you quite a bit. And you know, I've obviously gone away and found out, you know, other information about it, but I just thought these little girls were my age. They'd have been my age now. You know, who knows what they'd have gone on to do. And for what? For what? Oh, just so annoying. And if you see him, and just how dismissive he was when he was re-brought in 2016, it was like, oh, this again. You know. So, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you've got any comments, pop them in. I haven't had any comments in a while. I have my Tiffany, who always makes a comment, and thank you very much for that. You know, and it always gives me kind of a different perspective on the story. But I'd like to know if any of you think anything else, or, you know, if you did manage to watch the last video that I put up, the video of my video that I put up, you know, how you felt about that one, or anything about this, any stories you'd like me to look at. Thank you to my new subscribers. I really appreciate it. And if you could pop a like, I'd really appreciate that too. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me again. And I will see you soon. And no, I will do one before then, but very soon you will see Christmas lights above my head. Very excited. So, I'll see you all soon. Take care. Take care.